Welcome back to the IE427 garage, everyone. We are continuing work on Michael's Mark III. We're finishing all of the little things that need to be done on the car in order to get this car delivered back to Michael. So hang with us. All right, here you can see I've got the front hoop of the front bumper unbolted from the overriders. And I'll take you out to the front of the car and explain to you why we've got that going on. Basically, I want to get the overriders in place so that once my access is limited to the mounting bolts, which they're going to be limited, not impossible to get to, but it's harder to get to them. Once our radiator surround goes in, so if you remember, we've got a one-piece radiator surround that's going to come in here, wrap around the bottom, and back up the side. And in order to put that in, we need as much access to the front of the car as we possibly can get. So with the bumper hoop in place, that limits our access to this area more than it does if that bumper hoop is out. If we weren't doing the bumper hoop, it wouldn't matter. But since we are, I like to give myself as much room as possible to get in there as I can. The radiator surround is going to have to go in twice. And that is because when we pre-fit this, we did not drill the mounting holes that we're going to need for rivets that go up along this chassis piece here or on the other side. And I did that for a reason. The reason is the body doesn't always go back on the car, on the chassis in exactly the same spot. Now, it probably would have been close, and I would have been fine. But I have to take the front wheels off the car again anyway. So I thought it best to go ahead, put that radiator surround back in the opening. I'm going to mark it from the back side. So I'm from the wheel well side. I'm going to mark those 2 3/4 inch tubes, and then I'm going to figure out where my holes need to be drilled, and then I will drill those holes into the aluminum, and then I'll put it in the car, drill a couple of holes, cleco them, and then finish drilling all my holes in those 3/4 inch tubes. And then I'll be able to rivet it in, and everything will be good with the world. So, other things that I've been working on Michael's car are some of the interior details. So, what I did is first, I took the stack of washers that were here to space this latch catch out from the mounting bolt, and I replaced that with a one-piece spacer. So this is the same material that we use for the collars for either the quick jacks or the overriders. And so I have some of this excess material, and I just cut a piece of that to match the same thickness that I needed of the stack of washers. And of course now the door closes and latches just like it's supposed to. Other things, the most obvious thing is we did put the door cards in. These mount with Velcro, so it's self-adhesive Velcro. You can hear it as it comes apart. So these can be placed, pulled off to clean, and then put back in the car. So those are done. We did the check straps. So if you remember, we dyed these check straps black so they'd match better, and you can see how well they match in the car now. So that involved putting the hardware in for the check straps to the door hinges. That's done. And then the screws that go into the interior pillar of the car are done inside here as well. The last thing we did on the doors was we replaced the flange head nuts that Miller uses when he puts the cars together at his shop, and we replaced those with some acorn nuts that are stainless steel and we put some stainless steel washers behind them to make them look nice and neat. So that is all finished up on the driver's side, and we did the same thing over on the passenger side of the car. So again, we've got a spacer in for the latch. We have the door panels on. We have the check straps installed, and we have the acorn nuts installed on the hinges. So the interior is coming together really quick. Still have the rear view mirror to install, and I kind of broke my own rule here. Had the windshield put in first, and it's just going to make installing that mirror a little bit harder, but it can be done. So I've still got that to do on the interior, and then hopefully I've got some trim. I had a scrap piece upstairs, but this is the door edge trim. And since Michael's car arrived here with no interior in it whatsoever, we had to order some of that trim material. I did not have enough of it upstairs, but basically what that trim does is it wraps this area in between the interior aluminum of the cockpit to the body. So from here all the way up to about here, it'll get that door edge trim on both sides of the car. Black Crows, just say you're sorry. All right, in the front of the car, I have been working on little 25th anniversary car for you. I've been working on the bumper, and I got the bumpers in. I also have the nose aluminum in. So if you look inside here, we've got the nose aluminum all in place. Gave it a quick spritz with some cleaner. We've got it all pop riveted in. Let me see if I can find my flashlight. And you can see it's pop riveted there on that corner. Pop riveted over on this corner. And then on the bumpers, what I ended up doing, I cleaned these up. Basically, I took a soap pad, a steel wheel soap pad, and I gave them a good cleaning. And you don't have to do it with a whole lot of water. Basically, I just get the soap pad so it's damp. And then the problem is these are stainless. This is chrome. So they're not going to, never are they going to look exactly the same, but they're really close. When it's all said and done, they look really close. So from 5 feet away from the car, you can't tell that they're not the same. But the only other thing that I did, and I changed from the Factory 5 script, was I changed out the bolts that hold the bumper hoop to the overriders to these button head Allen heads, or hex heads. Hex heads? I guess they're hex head, right? Anyway, I just like the look of them better. The ones that were on there, let me see, I think I threw them in the garbage, but I should be able to dig them out. Let's see here. I think I see one. Were these. And these aren't even stainless. These are just standard grade 5 1/4" by 24 thread bolts. And that's what was holding the bumper on before, and I just thought it looked kind of like where they ended up, garbage. So I decided to go with the stainless button heads, and I just think they look better. So that just entailed drilling the holes out a little bit bigger and then putting those in, and I tell you, the front of the car is really starting to look nice. So I think the next thing that I'm going to work on is probably pulling the front wheels off and seeing about getting our pool noodles installed in between the body and the chassis to seal out any of that air. That'll That'll be one thing checked off my list that I won't have to come back to. And I'm going to go through my trim upstairs one more time and see if maybe I can dig up a piece of the door trim and use that. And then Michael has ordered some new stuff, and then I'll replace the stuff that I find or that I use with that. So we'll see what happens. I know I have some. I just got to find out where it is. So I'll be back. Aerosmith, Sweet Emotion. All right. I'm going to preface this by saying I purchase pool noodles once a year. Whenever they're at the 99-cent store or the dollar store or whatever the local $1 or less, or now it's $1.50 or less store is near you, has them in stock. That's when I buy them. And I usually buy about 6, and then I just store them upstairs until I need them. So this year, the popular color was blue. It's all they had. So funny, you know, Michael's car is blue, so it matches. So they come in about 6-foot lengths, and then you can see I just cut them to size. So these are some excess pieces that I had left from a previous build. I had already cut this one at a particular angle, and I had made the angle too severe, and it wouldn't take up the gap. So I held on to it anyways because I actually cut these in about 2.5-inch sections to put behind the wheel centers when they go on from the back side, and that takes up the space between the hub and the back of the wheel center to keep the wheel center out so you can spin the tri-spinner on. But I'll go through that when I put those together. This side, the pool noodle is in. You can see I cut it in kind of this profile. So I basically shaved it down to, about half its width. And then I use a collection of tools. I use my trunk prop, which just has a rubber end on both sides. And I use this rod right here, the same rod that I use when I'm tightening up drive shaft bolts as a backer. And I've got that pool noodle shoved in back there. I'm going to see if I can get the light over here so you guys can see it a little better. So there it is. You can see the pool noodle goes all the way from the firewall extension piece down and in to the bottom crevices of that opening. So any air that would have been allowed to come through the door gap right here is now sealed off. And if you look close, you can probably even see the pool noodle in there. So we've alleviated all of the hot air that's going to be coming through that area. So that side is in, and you can see it makes no encroachment onto the windshield area. So I don't have to worry about getting to the windshield bolts on this side. And as a matter of fact, you can see my shims for the windshield. I've got, I don't know if I showed you these, but I've got the windshield spacers made out of 2 flat washers. And what I do is I foil tape them together, and I leave a little tag so I can reach in there and hold them as I'm trying to get those bolts to line up. But you can see the bolts are still loose. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move over to the driver's side, and I'm going to get that side in because, again, the pool noodle does not interfere with the windshield bolts at all for the driver's or the passenger side. So I'm going to go ahead and get the pool noodle in on this driver's side as well. And then I'm going to see, I did find some door edge trim upstairs. I've got a couple pieces of it. I'm just hoping that they're long enough. And I'm going to try to get that door edge trim in too. And that should wrap this one up. And then hopefully next one will be able to fit the hardtop. We'll see. Be right back. Bad Company. Live for the music. All right. I got the driver's side all done. Big difference on the driver's side is you actually have to wrap it around the top of the driver's side footbox and get it all the way down the side. Get it tucked in as much as you can. It's gonna. You're not trying to get rid of every last little bit of air coming through there. What you're trying to do is prevent the gale force hot air blast that comes in there when you're driving down the road. So as much as you can do to mitigate that heat, the better. It'll make your time inside the car when it's a nice mild day, but the hot air from the engine, you know, this way it's not blowing in to your foot box or blowing in next to your leg when you've got it leaned up against the door. So that's the whole reason for this pool noodle, or the insulation. Factory 5 actually supplies you some 2-inch foam. The problem with it is, in about a year and a half, that foam is so, I don't want to say thin, because it's actually pretty thick. It's 2 inches thick. It's very low density, and so it just disintegrates. And the pool noodle, because of the type of material it is, it's going to hold in there and it's not going to move. And you're going to have far less air leakage into the cockpit with the pool noodle versus that foam insulation. And Factory 5 only provides you so much of that foam insulation. If you're trying to get the body on, if you've got that adhesive-backed foam that they provide you on there, chances are you're going to catch the body on it as the body's dropping down and tear it off anyways. This way you put this in afterwards, and it's stuck, it's friction fit, it's not going to come out. So I think I've changed my plan a little bit, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually move on to getting the electrical harness all squared away in the front here. Now you can get a really good view of the silicone that we did around the vent mesh, and you can see we got it all around the top, it's all around the bottom, and it's in there so it's not going to come out. Regardless, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to get some split loom on these wires here. I'm going to get some split looms on the wires that go down to the turn signal. And I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to get one more strap on here, and I'm going to put this over here in the corner to get it out of the way. I'm going to do the same thing, or kind of the same thing, over on the other side. It may not be exactly the same because obviously the wire harness is different on that side, but I'm going to do my best to tuck it up out of the way and keep it out of harm's way so that any debris coming off the tires isn't going to take it out. So I'll bring you back when I'm done with that. All right, Black Crows, let's go get stoned. Not good advice, but pretty good song. I'm going to start over here on the passenger side. I've got all the wires strapped up in here. As you can see, I've got the loom on the wires going to the headlight. I got the loom on the wires going down to the turn signal, and I added a strap right here and down here. What I'm trying to do over here is I'm trying to keep it away from the radiator, and the way I had it before, it was coming up in this side, or on this side, and it was just hitting the bottom of the radiator. And well, that may not be the hottest point of the radiator because the water is cooled, or the coolant is cooled by the time it gets to the bottom. I still don't like the wire harness, you know, right up against the radiator. So I decided that it would be better for it to come around the outside of the frame horn. I put a strap down there, and then I put one up there. So on the other side of the car, since I've got that all kind of done as well, what I can do is show you that I also got the side louver in on that side. So I'm going to sneak the light if I can reach it. So the side louver is in. I don't mount these in a traditional way. I mount these in a way that they can be taken off in the future without too much trouble, but there are no visible fasteners on these at all. So if you look on the bottom of the louvers, there are no screws running down through the bottom or up through the top. And the way I get away with that is, I think I showed you that I had those two brackets that I silicone to the top of the louver and the bottom of the louver. And then what I do is I actually run a bead of silicone on the front facing portion of those L brackets that I had previously siliconed on. And then I take foil tape, and the foil tape is going to hold everything in place while that silicone dries. And I'm just going to leave the foil tape there. It doesn't hurt anything, and it just gives you another layer of adhesion. And so I just leave it in place. So that is done on this side. I think tomorrow what I'm going to do is I'm going to work on getting the side pipes mounted on both sides of the car. Now you say to yourself, well, they look mounted to me, and they are, but there are no gaskets in here right now, and you can see we're using just standard hardware to mount these. And eventually we're going to have to change these out to locking hardware. So I'm going to go ahead tomorrow. I'm going to use copper RTV, which I've got right here. I've got an existing tube right there, and I've got a brand new tube next to it. And I'm going to use that ultra copper to create a gasket for this surface. And I'm just going to bolt it up using the same generic hardware. And then the following day, what I'll do is I'll pull those bolts out one at a time, and they will get a Allen head cap screw and a wave lock nut on each one of those. And they'll actually run in this way from the outside in. You know what? They may not. I don't think any of them can really be seen, even here on the driver's side. So they'll probably run in the same way they're running now. The only time I run them in from the outside in is when you're going to see the end of the bolt if it were to stick out this way, and we can't see any of those from here. So I'm just going to continue to run them from the inside out. So up in here, I did the same thing. I've got all of the wiring loomed, and then I added one more strap on this back side just to hold everything in place. And I was careful. You know, I looked from the front, and with the light shining behind it, you can see the wire, the loom from the front side through the grill. But when there's no light shining through the back, it's invisible. So I'm not too worried about it. The silver mesh, you know, sometimes it'll do it, but I think we've got it far enough away. It's not sitting right on top of that mesh, so it's going to be just fine. And then I think tomorrow also what I'll do is I'll work on that door edge trim around the two doors. Like I said, I found a couple of pieces upstairs. I had one piece, I dug up another, and I'm just hoping that it's going to be long enough that I'm going to be able to get what I need out of it, because I need about 32 inches, and it looks dangerously close to that length. So we'll see how it goes, and I'll check back in with you all tomorrow. Buck Cherry Carousel. All right, I think I'm going to wrap this video up here. It's actually 2 days later. I've been working on a bunch of stuff. The other stuff you'll see in another video. But I got the door edge trim installed. And so this is the way I do it. You can, you know, do it according to the factory 5 instructions. I basically start where the aluminum panel inside here ends. So as it's coming up, that's where I start it, at the very top of it. And then I wrap it all the way around here, and then I stop it again where this piece ends. It's got a little tab on the end of it, and then the piece that's against the side of the body. And then what I do is I put black pop rivets in key areas. I put it at the end, of course, because you don't want this coming off. I put one right here where you're going to step over. This is the thinnest part of it, where it actually dips down like into the carpeting. And so I put one there because this is the area that's prone to have it come loose. And then, of course, I put one at the other end over here. So I've got both sides done, and I'll give you a little sneak peek of what I was working on for the other video, and that is the hardtop. So I pre-fit the hardtop for the final fit. I guess this is the way you'd look at it. So pretty much the same thing over here. Pop rivet here, pop rivet here, and then pop rivet here. We did get our windshield bolted in. That's one of the reasons that I needed to get the hardtop in place, because I wanted to make sure we had the angle of the windshield right before I bolted it in. And so I went ahead and I put the windshield trim pieces in. They were in before, they were just resting on top of the body, but they've been fastened down to the body as well. One had a gap, and I'd love to show you the trick for that, guys, but I didn't have time, so I may go over it in the other video and let you know how I did that. But basically there was nothing to put the screw into, because the slot for the windshield had already been opened up enough that we couldn't get it in there. So like I said, I'll show you that maybe the other video. Anyways, thank you all for watching. Appreciate all of the views that we've been getting lately. If you enjoy the content, please do the like, the share, the subscribe, and all that good stuff. And we will see you guys all next time. Have a great day.